from the Department of ECE, Sri Sairam Engineering College for musical ecstasy. When you are around enormously successful people, you realize that their success isn't an accident. It's about hard work. Nothing great will be achieved without great men, and men are only great if they are determined to do so. Ladies and gentlemen, we are happy to have Professor Dr. Rachel A. Oliver, Professor of Material Science. Rachel Oliver received her ME in 2000 and PhD in 2003 degrees from the University of Oxford, UK. She is currently the Professor of Material Science and Director of the Cambridge Center for Gallium Nitride. She was one of the Women in Engineering Society Top 50 Women in Engineering in 2020. Rachel's research focuses on understanding how small-scale structure for nitride materials affects the performance and properties of devices. She is an equality and diversity champion for the University of Cambridge School of Physical Sciences and has addressed the Parliamentary and Scientific Committee on Equity issues. May I request the distinguished guest, Professor Dr. Rachel A. Oliver, to address the gathering. Please, ma'am.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so can I just check? I've got some technical content and then some valedictory content for the end. Does that work for you if I just do one after the other?
Yes, ma'am.
Brilliant. Okay, so just let me share my slides then. Okay, can you all see my first slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Brilliant, thank you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my work on porous nitride materials in the context of the future internet and the Internet of Things. Now, the work I'm going to talk about today has had inputs from many different people in my research group and also from many collaborators. So I'm going to start off by just putting up some of those names, acknowledging some of those people, particularly Tong Tong Zhu, who's been a real linchpin of this work and now leads our spin-out company on this porous gallium nitride here in Cambridge. So one of the questions we might want to ask in a conference like this is, how will we interact with the internet in the future? When I was a student, I largely interacted with the internet on a desktop PC. And then when I was a graduate student, I had a laptop, and that's how I interacted with the internet. And these days, sometimes I interact with the internet on my phone, and some people have smartwatches. But this dude, Mark Zuckerberg, thinks we're going to interact with the internet via virtual reality, via these headsets that will kind of plunge us into the virtual world entirely. And perhaps looking beyond virtual reality, we'll actually interact with the internet via augmented reality. So within, say, a pair of glasses, like I'm wearing today, you might have a display which overlays on your day-to-day reality the internet information you need. Perhaps the information to navigate a city laid out in front of you on the streets of that city, rather than being in your phone, buzzing at you in your hand. Perhaps entertainment content, all sorts of different things we could have in this augmented reality context. But augmented reality is going to be hard to achieve in like really high quality and good effectiveness, because it places very high demands on the displays that would be used. It's maybe quite easy to do augmented reality in a dark room, but that's not what we want. We want to be able to take these displays, these devices, out into the real world and have them keep working in all sorts of different ambient light conditions. So the need for these displays to work even in bright sunlight and against a background of a kind of real world context places huge demands on the displays in terms of brightness. They also need to be very tiny but maintain the resolution that we've come to demand. They need to have high switching speeds, particularly if they're going to display video content for entertainment and other contexts. And we need them to keep working without having to have heavy battery packs. So they need really low power consumption. This is a really challenging problem. In terms of what we want from the micro displays, we also want them to be 3-color, red, green, and blue. And that means that we're going to need diode devices emitting at all those 3 wavelengths. The demands of brightness here mean we're almost certainly going to be working in an inorganic semiconductor system. And the assembly of very, very high performance displays from monolithic semiconductor epitaxial wafers that then have to be made into tiny little LED chips and combined into an RGB device is complex. It uses pick and place type technology. Problems with this include the fact that red LED devices currently show surprisingly poor performance, as well as the complexity of the manufacturing, which I've mentioned. So what materials do we use for red micro LEDs? Well, classically, we use semiconductors like indium phosphide and its alloys. So indium phosphide alloyed with gallium phosphide and aluminium phosphide. That indium aluminium gallium phosphide material can easily have a band gap in this red spectral region. And if you're used to like switching off a CD player or other home electronic device and a little red light comes on, that little red light is almost certainly an indium gallium aluminium phosphide LED. It's a well-established technology. It was well established when I was a child, in fact. But the materials I'm generally interested in are the nitride materials, ranging from aluminium nitride with a band gap in the very deep ultraviolet to indium nitride in the infrared. Now, compared to our conventional 3-5 semiconductor materials, the thing about these nitride materials is their band gaps cross all the way across the visible spectrum. So they make us start to wonder, can we create displays which have wavelengths all the way across the visible spectrum from one single material system? Could we even perhaps create displays where we don't have to do all that picking and placing of multiple different chips, but within a single wafer achieve multiple wavelengths of emission and greatly simplify the manufacturing process. So that's why I'm really interested in nitrides for these micro LEDs. Now, at the grand scale, if you're making big LEDs, which may be millimeters, plural, across, the phosphide-based materials are really quite efficient. But what I've got here is a graph of how their performance changes as we make them smaller and smaller. EQE is external quantum efficiency. And here we can see that for already quite a micro device, but 16 microns, this is a pretty efficient device, although this is an arbitrary unit, so it still may not be perfect. But as we go to smaller and smaller devices that we might want in a micro display, the efficiency is dropping off really rapidly. Using nitrides here in the blue, on the other hand, it's possible to maintain high external quantum efficiencies, even for really quite small device sizes. In fact, here, some of the smallest devices at high powers or high current densities are appearing to be maybe even more efficient than the large devices. So we can maintain the performance of nitride devices down to really small sizes. The big challenge with the phosphides is this is a material which is very sensitive to the presence of surface states in the material. And those surface states offer a non-radiative recombination pathway. They mean that electrons and holes can recombine to give out heat rather than light. And that's what might make the devices inefficient. And the smaller you make the device, the more the surfaces, the edges of the device, dominate the performance of that device. Okay, so my spin-out company, Pora Technologies, Poratech, has been developing red micro LEDs based on porous gallium nitride. I'm not going to tell you a huge amount about the details of the technology, partly because this is a very, very recently developed technology and we're kind of still trying to keep some of the IP very close in the company. What I'm going to tell you about is the porous materials that we've used to enable these micro LEDs, very, very small LEDs, emitting in the red using nitride materials. So here, before we kind of get into the nitty-gritty of the materials, are display devices we've made. These are, at the moment, just red devices. Our next big challenge is going to be monolithic integration of multiple wavelengths. But these are really mini displays down at the scale where the entire display across the leading diagonal is only just over a centimetre across. Okay, so these are nitride displays. So we need to know a little bit about the nitrides. Many of you may well have encountered these materials before. As I've noted, they're a key material in blue light-emitting diodes. Those blue light-emitting diodes are used in our everyday lives to pump phosphors, which emit at other colours. And the combination of the blue and the other colours of light gives us white light, which we can then use in light bulbs to light up our homes. Nitrides are also found in blue, green, and ultraviolet laser diode devices. I work on single photon source devices, light sources with controlled quantum number of photons. And there's also a huge and increasing trend towards using these materials in electronic devices, particularly high electron mobility transistors for radio frequency communication applications and also for power applications. Now, all of the nitrides that are used to make these devices tend to be grown on foreign substrates. There are bulk substrates of gallium nitride available, big gallium nitride crystals with a very low density of defects, but they're extraordinarily expensive and also very hard to come by. So instead, most of the time we start off with something else, a substrate such as sapphire, silicon, or silicon carbide, and we grow the gallium nitride on top of that. And that results in defects in the material, mistakes in the gallium nitride, which thread up through the layer and influence its properties and its performance. And they're going to be quite important in the material story I'm going to tell you. Now, I'm going to talk about porous gallium nitride, but porous semiconductors aren't a new thing. So we draw a lot of inspiration in this work from porous silicon materials. By etching silicon in hydrofluoric acid, it was demonstrated that you can create both mesoporous and macroporous structures. That then enabled light emission from porous silicon. Silicon is an indirect bandgap material. Up till this point, it hadn't been thought of as being useful for light emission. But by creating nanostructures which alter effectively the local band structure, we can render these structures light emitting. And when I was an undergraduate, that was a hugely exciting thing. And there was a lot of investigation of how to control these porous materials, tuning the etching parameters to change the porosity, the wall thickness, the pore size, and really get control of the materials. Although this was, for a while, a really hot topic, and porous silicon and porous silica have seen actually increasing application in a wide variety of fields, the light-emitting devices have never been a big commercial success. That's because porous silicon is not very stable to oxidation, and the material changes with time as it becomes more and more oxidized. Performance decreases, the color of the emission changes. These are not necessarily good light emitters. So we instead are creating porosity in gallium nitride. Now, gallium nitride is a much, much more stable material. It's a material that is already light emitting. We're not trying to enable light emission, but it's a material where we can get new properties, new applications going by utilizing porous materials, by introducing holes into the material. Here you can see a scanning electron microscopy image with layers of pores in the material. And this was etched in a setup like the one I'm showing on the left. We have our sample acting as our anode. We have a piece of platinum foil acting as our cathode, and they are inserted into an acidic electrolyte. We apply a bias between anode and cathode, and a current will flow. Holes are injected into the N-type gallium nitride. That then catalyzes a local oxidation process, forming a gallium oxide which dissolves in the acid. We can engineer the shape and size of the pores we use via both the etching conditions, but also by the concentration of dopants in the material we are etching. So this gallium nitride is a semiconductor material, and it's being etched by an electrochemical process where we have to have a current flow. That current flow is only possible in doped material in a semiconductor. So in the diagram I've got here, where we have undoped layers, they're still just non-porous gallium nitride. They haven't etched at all. Where we have doped layers, those are the layers that etch, and the more highly doped layers are more porous. They've etched more quickly than the low doped layers. Now, one thing you might assume when you look at this SEM image is that we've essentially taken a wafer of gallium nitride, cleaved it into two pieces, and then etched from the cleaved edge to create this porosity. In fact, we etched the wafer and then cleaved it to observe the porosity. And the etching actually goes through the undoped layers that you see in this image. Now, a lot of the time we're interested in making multi-layer structures. So the sample structure I'm showing here has alternating layers of doped and undoped gallium nitride. If we etch it in the setup I just showed you, we can achieve, with uniform doping in the layers, the formation of this very, very sort of periodic structure of doped and undoped, of porous and non-porous material. Now, what this actually is, it is a distributed Bragg reflector, which is, it can be used in a number of different devices to reflect light. And that's really useful in quite a lot of optoelectronic technologies. But what I want to stress here is that, once again, we're achieving this etching through these non-porous layers to achieve porosity in the underlying layers. Now, porous GaN is something that exists in the literature. It is something that's been quite well developed by a group at Yale, as exemplified by this paper by Zhang et al. But the Yale group have quite a complex process flow for their porous GaN. They would start off with a doped undoped multilayer, just as I've got in this structure here. They would coat that multilayer in silicon dioxide. They would use photolithography to define windows in that silicon dioxide, and then they would use reactive ion etching to create deep trenches in the silicon dioxide. Via the walls of those deep trenches then, the etchant accesses the dope layers. All of that adds a great deal of complexity to the device processing, and it's also, in my opinion, unnecessary. As well as making the processing more complex, it will also limit the architectures of devices that can be made on this porous structure. But we don't do that. We have a process that gets through these undoped layers. And when I first say that, that sounds impossible. We have these layers that seem non-porous, and I'm saying the etchant is somehow soaking through them to go to the porous layers. So let's explore a little bit how that is happening. Okay, so firstly, I'm proving to you here that we can do this at the full wafer scale. So this is a gallium nitride and sapphire wafer. It's 5 centimeters or 2 inches across. And apart from a small region here, which we've deliberately left unetched, we can see that we've etched the whole surface of the wafer. It's unpatterned and it's completely shiny because we've etched into it this mirror structure, this distributed Bragg reflector. If we then go and look at the surface of that sample, here's an unetched sample where we can see in atomic force microscopy a terraced surface. And here is an etched sample where we maintain the same morphology to that terraced surface. How are we doing that? Well, I'm looking here at a different porous distributed Bragg reflector sample. And what we're going to do here is use the transmission electron microscope to look at just a single layer of the porous material. Now, this is now a plan view image. We've made a very, very thin foil of the porous material. We've ground away the material lying above and below here. And we have a map, a plan view image in the scanning transmission electron microscope of that porous layer. What we can see are these little dark holes in the layer, okay? And emanating from those dark points, we see as mid-gray the pores emanating outwards. And where we have 2 holes and pores emanate from each of them, there's a sort of white wall between them where the domains of porosity intersect and bump into each other. So what are these little holes? Well, I'm just showing you here another example of this same phenomenon, where we have these holes with branching porosity emanating outwards from them. And if we zoom in on one of those holes, we can actually image it in our transmission electron microscope at atomic resolution. And the atomic resolution picture I have here may be difficult for you to see the atoms in this part, but maybe here in this region, you can see the atomic columns more clearly. What we've done is we've drawn what's called a Burger's circuit around the hole. Now, a Burger's circuit is a circuit which in a perfect crystal, you would take an equal number of steps in each of the symmetry-related directions, and you would come back to the place where you started. The circuit would close. But our Burger's circuit here does not close. It's open. And that's because there is a defect associated with this hole, a mistake in the crystal. And I showed you near the beginning these defects which run all the way through the gallium nitride thin films. And those defects open up into little pipes during the etching process and make a pathway for the etchant to access the doped layers. Sometimes we see holes where we actually find that the dislocation core, the center of the dislocation, is still intact. The pipe has finished at this layer and goes no further through the sample. And then we can actually see in our atomic resolution imaging the structure of the dislocation in just a thin region of material that remains. Sometimes we do see pipes with no dislocations, and I have to say we don't understand that at all. So there's still some mysteries about this material. So if we're making a multi-layer structure like the ones I've just showed you, then the etching proceeds with time, layer by layer. The top layer of material is etched away, exposing the layer beneath, so that then the dislocation channels allow the etchant to get down to the next layer, and then a second layer is etched. here a bit later in the process we've etched 5 layers, and then here all the way through the structure. So we have an overall picture of the etching mechanism, whereby the etchant goes down through the dislocation pipe, and then as it reaches each dope layer, goes outwards. Once the conductivity of that layer has reduced below some threshold value, the etch will proceed downwards again, and then again outwards, over and over again through the structure, creating this porous multilayer. That is the material science basis of the red micro-LEDs that we are creating at Porotech. Using porous GaN, we're able to create red devices. We can also create green and blue devices, and we're working now to combine them into an overall micro display where there's red, green, and blue on the chip, because we can use the porous material to manipulate the emission properties and performance of the overlying gallium nitride. Okay, so summing up my technical content for today. Electrochemical etching of gallium nitride is what I've been showing you, and that allows the formation of subsurface porosity, which leaves behind a clean, smooth surface ready for device overgrowth. In making our red LEDs, we overgrow the LED epitaxy on the porous GaN, and it is the porous GaN that then enables the material to form such that it can emit efficiently red light. We have nanoscale pipes forming at dislocation cores. These are materials that have lots and lots of defects in them. And here we're actually, rather than saying that the defects are a problem for our material, we're making use of the defects to allow the etchant to access dope layers, even when the layers are buried beneath the surface. This is a novel mechanism which is enabling the use of nitride materials, traditionally a material only really used to make blue, green, and near ultraviolet LEDs, to be useful in the fabrication of red micro LEDs. And in the future, we're aiming to combine highly efficient red, green, and blue micro LEDs all together on one chip. That's going to enable, hopefully, micro display technologies for augmented reality, which will change how humans interact with the future internet. Okay, so that's the end of my technical content. I'm quite happy to continue to some valedictory remarks from there, or I'm equally happy to take some questions on the technical content. What would the organisers prefer? Does anybody want to comment, or shall I just carry on?
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your deep knowledge with us. Your words were full of enthusiasm and valuable knowledge.
Shall I continue with the valedictory remarks then? Yeah? Okay, I'll continue. Okay. So I hope you've all really enjoyed your conference over the last few days. I just want to make a few remarks as you come towards the end of the conference.
Yes,
Just
ma'am.
checking. Shall I continue? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Brilliant, I will do. Okay. So the first thing I want to say is thank you very much to everyone who's been involved in organising the conference. I've just pulled out a few names here from the programme committee and also the organising committee. But I know that organising a conference of this type involves a huge amount of work from people at all levels, including student volunteers, lots of the senior academic staff involved. And I'm sure that everybody in the audience will want to join me in thanking the people who've brought this meeting together and brought together the technical programme and all the other events surrounding the conferences. Thank you very much, and many congratulations for that organisation. I'd also like to mention some things before I finish about the IEEE, who've sponsored the conference. So the IEEE is a large organisation providing lots of opportunities and support for the electrical engineering profession. I'm particularly engaged with the IEEE Photonics Society, which is a technical community of more than 100,000 professionals working in photonics. We're working to transform breakthroughs in quantum physics into real devices that can revolutionize our daily lives. And I'm sure you're aware that photonics is fantastically important for the global internet that you've been talking about throughout the conference in terms of communication via fiber optics. It also has any number of other applications: lasers for medical applications, flat screen displays, photovoltaic devices, and LEDs that I've been talking about today, not only for micro displays, but also for low energy efficient illumination of our world. There are huge numbers of examples of the Photonics Society's impact in the world around us and of photonic devices. The Photonics Society also provides professional growth opportunities, journals, conferences, local chapters, and student activities. So just to mention some of the journals, there's the IEEE Photonics Journal, Photonic Technology Letters, the Journal of Quantum Electronics, really probing the use of quantum physics in devices, and then things like the Journal of Lightwave Technology, Optical Communications and Networking, and Display Technology, all under this IEEE Photonics umbrella. The IEEE Photonics Society also helps to provide standards for the photonics industry, looking at lasers, optical devices, optical fibers, and quantum electronics. And it's responsible for the development of coordination of a number of different standard projects and maintains them so that standards in the industry are kept high. One thing that's particularly important to me, and I'm sure as I'm speaking to many female engineers and engineering students, also important to many people here, is the IEEE's Photonics Society commitment to diversity. The Photonics Society is committed to providing equal opportunities to scientists and engineers regardless of ethnicity, race, nationality, disability, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, religion, gender, or personal identity. And their policy is to continually improve their practices in order to build and maintain an environment that reflects the rich diversity of the photonics and optics scientific community. They particularly strongly support women in photonics. They work to increase the participation of women and the engagement of women in this really exciting technology area. They do outreach to inspire more women to work in photonics and in electrical engineering. They work to achieve gender balance in the power structures of the society. They provide volunteering opportunities to women. They organize special women in photonics events to promote networking in female groups and help women broaden their networks more generally. And they provide education, mentoring, and training for women in the society. There's also, for the student body and other up-and-coming research, a very strong young professionals program in the IEEE that provides professional development opportunities for young professionals, and it goes on beyond people's graduation. So many people may be student members of the IEEE, but the support of the IEEE and its photonics program can go on from your graduation, if you are a student, throughout your entire career. The Young Professionals Program has goals to provide career and networking support to people soon after they graduate, help them to engage with senior engineers in the profession, provide online content, webinars, training content online, and to help build up a community of people who volunteer for the IEEE to help maintain and provide all of these programs. So I'd really like to encourage you, if you've been attending this conference, to get involved with the IEEE if you're interested in photonics, and then I particularly recommend the Photonics Society. It's been a big support to me, particularly in the last year where I've been acting as a distinguished lecturer for the Society and speaking to audiences all over the world. And I believe it's a fantastic organisation. I also want to say thank you again to all of the organisers of this meeting, to everyone who's presented for their excellent contributions, and for everyone who's attended, who's contributed to discussions and engaged with the presented content. No conference is meaningful unless it's a coming together of the community where everyone can talk and discuss science and come up with new ideas and foster new collaborations. So I really hope you've been able to do this via this fantastic meeting and that you've really enjoyed it. And I'm very grateful to the opportunity to speak to you today. So thank you very much. And I think I will close there. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, the valedictory function is about to start. I request you to be in the meet, ma'am. I request the dignitaries to occupy the dais.
எடுத்துடலாம்.
A warm welcome is the first sign of hospitality. Words of welcome fill an occasion of warmth and makes one feel that he is meant to be there. I welcome Dr. J. Raja, General Chair, IC3 IoT, HOD, Department of ECE. No great achievement is possible without persistent work. I request Dr. S. Brinda, Conference Chair, to present the welcome address. Please, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone present here. Respected Chief Guest of the day, Dr. Oliver Rachel, Director of the Cambridge Center for Gallium Nitride, United Kingdom. Respected CEO of Sairam Institution, Sri Sai Prakash Muthu. Respected Principal, Dr. Kurkumaran. Respected Dean Academics and HOD, Dr. Raja. Fellow staff members, participants from various colleges from India and overseas industries, and my dear student friends. Very good afternoon and a warm welcome to all of you in this validity session of 2022 International Conference on Communication, Computing and Internet of Things. And on behalf of Sri Sairam Engineering College and as a conference chair, it is indeed a pleasure to be addressing this gathering of eminent scholars, researchers and academicians and students. We have seen in the last two years, there has been a paradigm shift taking place in the way the world has been working, and we have had distinguished speakers and researchers from all across the world sharing their ideas and insights right from their desk. We have made great progress in the digitization of communication and interaction. A few decades ago, interactions like this, people from different corners of the world communicating with each other, and it was merely an imagination and needed highly sophisticated equipment to communicate like this. But thanks to the dedicated and committed work of researchers like those we have here today, and now even people in the remotest corners of the world can connect with the professionals using virtual platform. So all this is possible only with the evaluation of communication and computing technology, and this should highlight the need to have sustained research and improvements in the field of technology. And the Internet of Things is the next big thing as far as the communication technology is concerned, and we are glad to have the exceptional discussion on this conference for the last 2 days. At the outset, I extend my sincere thanks to everyone involved in organizing the 2-day international conference and thereby bringing the enlightened discussion on communication, computing and Internet of Things. So to start the validity session, so I heartily welcome the chief guest, Dr. Oliver Rachel from UK. Heartily welcome, madam. And I heartily welcome our beloved principal, Dr. Purkovaran sir. And I welcome all the participants from various colleges from India and foreign universities. Welcome all. And I welcome all the staff members of Sairam Engineering College and student friends of ECE. And once again, I welcome all of you for this validity session. So this is today we have with us Dr. Oliver Rachel to address the validity. Just now, Madam completed, and because of the time shortage, we have pre-planned the validity address, and we are very much thankful for Oliver Rachel Madam for her valid address, and thank you very much, Madam, for your valuable presence and your validity address. So with these few words, once again, I welcome all the members for this wonderful validity ceremony of IC3 IoT 2022 International Conference on Communication, Computing and Internet of Things. I hope you all enjoyed these 2 days experience at Sairam Engineering College. So thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all others. Now I request Dr. E. Priya, Publication Chair, Professor, Department of ECE, to present the IC3 IoT 2022 report. Please, ma'am.
Very good afternoon to one and all present here. We, the members of Department of ECE, as well as Sairam Engineering College, extend a heartfelt thanks to IEEE for its technical sponsorship for the conduct of the 3rd International Conference on Communication, Computing and Internet of Things, held during 10th and 11th of March 2022. It's my privilege to be the publication chair and to present the report on the 3rd edition of this conference. The objective of this conference was to provide an intellectual forum for sharing knowledge and present the innovative researches in technologies, as well as developments and future demands related to broadband technologies, computing technologies, human-computer interaction, and wireless communication, along with IoT and healthcare. This conference, IC3 IoT 2022, hosted 10 keynote addresses and 26 parallel oral presentation sessions with 221 papers in an overall span of 2 days. Mr. James E. Morris, Professor Emeritus, Portland State University, USA, delivered the inaugural address. Our CEO, Sri Sai Prakash Leomuthu, the Sairam institutions, gave the presidential address. Dr. Bosina Pasik Duncan, Professor, University of Kansas, USA, delivered the keynote address. Dr. N. Kumarapan, Chair of IEEE Madras Section, delivered the presidential or special address. Our principal, Dr. K. Purkumaran, graced the inaugural session, and our HOD, Dr. J. Raja, the General Chair, welcomed the gathering, and Dr. S. Brinda, the organizing chair, gave a note on the genesis of this conference. And Dr. E. Priya, publication chair, delivered a vote of thanks. Also, the conference proceedings was released by our CEO and received by the dignitaries. I'll present a brief note on the keynote sessions held during the inaugural session. Dr. Eros Passero, Sairam president from Italy, shared his experience on AI and IoT. New resolution. Dr. Nuno from Portugal briefed on simultaneous wireless information and power transmission for space exploration. Dr. Frakrul, Faculty of Computer and Mathematical Sciences, Malaysia, delivered a keynote on integrating blockchain and IoT concepts and examples. Dr. Jade Mata, a researcher, scientist, and developer from Lebanon, elaborated on searching algorithms and ML. Dr. Aishwarya, chair of IEEE EMBS, Singapore chapter, delivered her talk on wearable health tech for cancer supportive care. Dr. Subodh Gajare, principal architect from Bangalore, delivered his talk on massive IoT acceleration with 5G. And I'm very much impressed by the talk of our valedictory speaker, Dr. Rachel A. Oliver, Professor of Material Science, University of Cambridge, UK. Around 526 papers were received, and out of which 221 were shortlisted for presentation. Eminent persons from industry and from academic institutions peer-reviewed the papers. The selected papers were presented in various sessions held during these 2 days of the conference. All the oral presentation sessions were chaired by eminent professors from reputed institutions. To name a few, Dr. M. Meenakshi, Professor and Head, Department of ECE, CG Campus, Anna University. Dr. Tata Sudhakar, Scientist G, NIOT, Chennai. Dr. M. Ganesh Madan, Professor and Head, Department of Electronics, MIT Campus, Anna University. Dr. S. Uma Mageshwari from Department of IT, MIT Campus. Dr. P. Vijayalakshmi, Professor and Head of CSE, SSM. And Dr. T. Shanmuganathan, Professor, Department of Electronics, Pondicherry University. And Dr. K. Srinivasan, Professor and Head, E&I, Sri Ramakrishna Engineering College. Dr. Subhash, Professor, Dean Academics, Mangalam College of Engineering, Kerala. And Dr. R.R.T., Professor of ECE, Sairam, Ramapuram Campus. So hope the conference served its purpose of conveying the technological advancements and research issues to the participants as well as the students. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. A pessimist complains about the wind, an optimist tries to change it, and a leader adjusts the same. May I take the pleasure of requesting our respected principal, Dr. K. Porkumaran, to address the gathering. Please, sir.
Most respected and beloved Chairman and CEO, Sri Sai Prakash Deomurthy in his absence here. The General Chair, Professor Dr. Raja, HOD ECE in his absence here. Professor Dr. Brinda, Organizing Chair, Professor Dr. Priya, Publication Chair, and Professor Dr. Bhaskaran, the Technical Committee Chair. Organizing team members, participants from various institutions, my dear faculty members and student friends, good afternoon. We are very honored to have Professor Dr. Rachel A. Oliver, Professor of Material Science, Director of the Cambridge Center for Gallium Nitride, University of Cambridge, UK, and all the distinguished invited speakers, keynote speakers, chairpersons, and delegates from various institutions across the country as well as the world. It's a great honor and privilege for me to associate with the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering of Sri Sairam Engineering College for this wonderful, extraordinary, dedicated third edition of IEEE International Conference on Communication, Computing, IoT, IC3, IoT 2022. We were able to witness the tremendous efforts taken by the department and the dedications and extraordinary contribution by the organizing team, including the faculty members and student members of Electronics and Communication Engineering. It's really wonderful. We were able to witness the standards and quality you are contributing for the past 2 days. It's extraordinary. So I can say in 3 words, sincerity, dedication, and smart work towards the successful completion of the 2-day third edition of International Conference in association with IEEE. I hope and expect the participants, delegates, keynote speakers, invited guests and students community, research community, they enjoyed a lot during the last 2 days, and it will be carried out for the forthcoming editions of IC3 IoT 2023. With this, I congratulate the entire team, organizing members of IC3 IoT, and I wish you all the best. And I like to highlight here, we are doing a lot of scientific activities for the advancement of scientific community through IEEE. IEEE meant for the advancement of the scientific community. Really, our faculty members, research scholars, student members, professional members of IEEE at Sairam Engineering College, Sairam institutions contributing more for the advancement of the scientific community. And we are involving ourselves, contributing ourselves in all the major initiatives of the IEEE globally, Region 10 Asia Pacific level, IEEE Madras section level. And we have done a wonderful job in IEEE Extreme Programming Competition, and 110 plus teams participated, 330 plus certifications received, 47 global ranks received by our IEEE members. I was able to witness the dedicated efforts and the sincerity during the 24 hours competitions happened with team members of many students here. Mr. Shyam, Mr. Aditya, and other team members here, their dedication and inspiration, innovation, doing things is extraordinary under the leadership of Professor Dr. Raja and Professor Dr. Brinda and other IEEE members of Sri Sairam Engineering College. At this juncture, I thank the organizers for inviting me to participate in this August gathering. Wish you all the best. And I congratulate the entire team for the successful completion of this 2-day international conference. Thank you very much.
Now I request our principal to give away the certificates for all the participants of IC3 IoT. I request our principal, Dr. K. Porkumaran, to release the certificates to all the participants of IC3 IoT.
Now the participants will receive the certifications digitally, and it's a very innovation activity carried out at this international conference. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The reward of a thing well done, having done. Gratitude is the fair. Participants, do you have any feedback? Please come forward to address it. Participants, kindly share your feedback.
It was excellent, I would say that, and also I would request the principal to set up an NLP lab in electronics and communication engineering, because NLP is very important thing, because we are a society of various languages. For example, Tamil Nadu, most of them knows Tamil only. Andhra Pradesh to take, and Shri Narendra Modi is addressing in Hindi, which will not be known. So I would request our esteemed principal of Sairam to set up an NLP lab for specifically ECE, because NLP is more towards computer science department. I would request because technology driven is by electronics and communication. That's all. That's my sincere plan. And also I told Madam just now in the conference when this was going. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon to all of you. I'm audible.
Yes, yes.
Good afternoon to all of you. I'm a PhD research scholar from Ambala, Haryana, MMU University. This conference is very wonderful and valuable for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other participants? Participants in the meet can also unmute and you can share your feedback.
So we have started presenting. The 2 days event was completely full of. We got to know about various projects on various fields. So it's like we explored a lot. That's what we gained. At the end of the day, we can able to explore in various fields. So it was a really fun event. So as we also organized, it was like we both organized and participated. So it's like fun, and at the same time, a great knowledge has been acquired.
Girls side, anyone can share your feedback.
The event was really informative. We came to know about a lot of projects and where the field is currently and how much research we still have to do in our field. And all the key speakers, they were all really brilliant, amusing. So I thank our management for giving us this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. The reward of a thing well done is having done it. Gratitude is the fairest blossom which brings from the soul. Every celebration is an experience. The external fades away and the internal lingers and echoes in the most depths of our heart. We are reminded that events like this one are milestones on the journey of life. I invite Dr. M. Bhaskaran, Technical Grant Chair, to propose the of thanks, please, sir.
Good evening to everyone present here. Good evening. Respected Principal Sir, Dr. Kumaran Sir, I take immense pleasure in proposing vote of thanks and acknowledging the contribution of who worked hard for the success event IEEE IC3 IoT for the 2 days. I extend my thanks to the Almighty for making this 2-day international conference and a grand success. On behalf of Department of ECE, Sri Sairam Engineering College, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our chief guest, Professor Dr. Rachel A. Oliver, Professor of Material Science, Oxford University, London. Cambridge University, UK, London, who spared her busiest schedule with their schedule to grace the occasion. With your presence, thanks, ma'am, for sharing your thoughts with the audience. My sincere gratitude to all the speakers of the 2-day conference for sharing their ideas and knowledge on various topics from the fields related to communication, computing, and Internet of Things. I am grateful to all the sessions here, both internal and external, in spending their valuable time. I thank our chairman and CEO, Sri Shai Prakash Riyamuthu sir, for extending us the opportunity to make this conference happen. Thank you, sir. My sincere gratitude goes to Principal Sir Dr. K. Porkumaran for his valuable support. Thank you, sir. I also thank our HOD, Dr. J. Raja, General Chair of IC3 IoT and Dean Academics, for entire support taking efforts in EC department. I need to mention my deepest sense of gratitude to all the faculties for their enormous cooperation for this event. It's my duty to extend further thanks to all our participants. A big appreciation and congratulations to all the winners and the participants who got to present their work in this 2 days conference. Finally, I thank all the student volunteers. So hope you all gained a lot of knowledge from this 2 days international conference IC3 IoT. Once again, I thank everyone. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Sir, kindly. Ma'am? Oliver, ma'am? Ma'am, kindly accept the e-memento as a token of gratitude.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Love towards his motherland is the first dignity of a civilized man. I request everyone to rise up for the national anthem.
जनगणमन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात द्राविड उत्कल गंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगल दायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
you.